All right, you're good to go.
Welcome to another edition of Tater Talk. It's episode 66. It is June 25th, Monday night, that we record. As always, I am your host, Justin Ledger, and I am joined by my co host, Zach Hummel, and producer Graz. Zach, how are you?
Doing good. Big show today. Excited.
Huge show. We have a special guest, Gary Sheffield Jr. is on the show. Later on, we will have that interview for you guys. Very, very excited about that. But for now, we have to start off this with absolutely the biggest story of the week, which was Hanley Ramirez. This drug thing was wild. This story broke on Friday that he was reportedly under investigation for drug trafficking, essentially being this kingpin. And I guess a lot of media, like people in the media in Boston, have been sitting on this story for at least a month or so. But it just got released. I think it was Friday night that it got released. So that put everyone into a frenzy, thinking that Hanley Ramirez was this Walter White of baseball. And then it turned out I think it was yesterday, the report came out that the whole thing was false. The friend who got pulled over with all the drugs, he just brought up Hanley Ramirez's name, and he's not a kingpin after all. He was just trying to name drop and hopefully get out of an arrest. So this whole thing was absolutely crazy. Zach, what was your initial reaction when there was a report that Hanley Ramirez was this drug kingpin? And what were your thoughts on this entire situation?
Yeah, I was following it kind of on the outskirts. I heard that Hanley Ramirez was in a drug ring. I'm like, he's not in the MLB anymore. That makes sense. Like, he's just trying to make a little bit of cash on the side. But like the fact that they tied him to like MS-13 and gang affiliations, and
there were some wild rumors coming out,
making him out to be this huge kingpin like El Chapo down in Mexico. I knew something was up because like, how could a guy in the public sector like Hanley Ramirez do all this stuff unless he had minions, unless he was doing like an Aaron Hernandez like thing? Right. But Hanley Ramirez doesn't strike me as an Aaron Hernandez type personality. He seems like very fun loving and kind of outgoing, yes. And his brain, it doesn't always focus the way it should, which you need to be. You need to be focused as a drug kingpin. So I don't think he had the mental aptitude to be one. So the fact that this guy just dropped his name, it just speaks to how much we blow everything out of proportion when we hear one little thing nowadays.
It's Twitter, man. It's just the Twitter age. As soon as anything gets tweeted, it's assumed to be fact. Even if no one has the facts, if something's tweeted, you're just like, ah, man, that's true. Like, there's no due process anymore. So I think we've learned a valuable lesson here, is to be very careful with shit like this, because now, no matter what, Hanley Ramirez is going to be associated with drug trafficking just because of this whole story. I know like he's innocent, like he's not a part of this at all, but he's going to be associated as a joke with drug trafficking forever. That's his legacy. He's a baseball player who once was associated with drug trafficking. Kind of funny because he's not involved. That makes it kind of funny. But it's just so strange, this world that we're living in now, where someone can be like randomly accused of drug trafficking and everybody believes it.
Yeah, how crazy is the guy to just name drop Hanley Ramirez? I don't know if the guy had any connection to him, like he knew him from somewhere, but like just dropping Hanley Ramirez's name, like when you get pulled over for drugs, is like insane.
It's how crazy do you have to be to believe that that's going to work? Like, hold on a sec. Let me FaceTime my boy real quick. It's Hanley. You think the cost can be like, oh, you know Hanley, when you have 495 pounds of fentanyl and like you have crack cocaine in there too. Like the whole story was insane. The original report came out from Michelle McPhee of ABC, and she tweeted, Hanley Ramirez, former Red Sox infielder, has some issues being eyed in connection with ongoing federal and state investigations. Stay tuned. So that was the initial tweet that put everyone in, like I said, a frenzy. And then the Globe came out with the report Sunday. Here's the report. I'll read a snippet of it for the listeners who want to be more educated on this. The report from the Globe that pretty much freed Hanley from this entire thing. Quote, the man claimed that the box contained books and that Ramirez's mother had shipped the box to him in New York to hand deliver to his friend Ramirez in Boston. In an attempt to back up his story, the man called Ramirez via FaceTime on his cell phone, handed it to the trooper. The trooper asked Ramirez if he was aware that his friend was en route to visit him and was delivering a box from his mother. Ramirez said he was not aware. The trooper asked if he could open the box, and Ramirez agreed. The box contained a gift bag with 2 kilos of fentanyl inside. The man was arrested on drug trafficking charges and immediately began stating that his friend, Hanley Ramirez, was not involved and the box wasn't for him. The man's attorney, who asked that he not be named because of concerns it would help identify his client, said his use of Mr. Ramirez's name was an ill-thought-out attempt to evade further police scrutiny. How in the world do you think that that's going to work? That's the funniest part of the story to me, is that this guy actually thought he was going to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, just a crazy story, and I think that's the funniest part, as this guy just thought about Hanley Ramirez.
Yeah, and to wrap it all up, Hanley tweeted last night, quote, "I have been home enjoying my family. Not being on a team has been my choice. Grateful to those of you who resisted spreading the reckless, misleading reports." And he threw in a nice eyes emoji in there for good measure. So, again, wild story. I'm very happy that it's not true, because Hanley, as we've grown to know him, is that fun-loving guy. And if he had this darker, drug lord side, you can't trust anybody these days if that came out to be true. So very happy that it wasn't. I think we could wrap it up there now that the whole case has been wrapped up. Favorite stories from the week. I know that was probably our favorite story, the whole drug lord saga with Hanley, but there were some other pretty good stories this week. Do you want to go first here?
Yeah, so this story, I haven't really heard about it tweeted out or, covered in the news, but it's on the baseball Reddit, and I saw it 2 days ago. So someone sent a Yankees PR person sent a letter to Mickey Mantle in the 70s saying, what was your best memories as a Yankee?
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember most about Yankee Stadium? And I'm guessing this is true because it's on the Reddit and no one's going after it. They said he pretty much says his best memory at Yankee Stadium was pulling his groin and then getting a blowjob underneath the stadium, and that's him writing it in, sending it to the Yankees years after he played. So I guess Mickey Mantle was. I guess his hit count is pretty high. He was a ladies' man back in the day. So the fact that he was outwardly saying that he got a blowjob during a game back then, I mean, that's Mickey, adds to the Mickey Mantle lore.
If you were a baseball player in that time and you didn't get one, then you were a scrub. That was what went on in clubhouses, where in the ballpark, in between innings. We know the whole story with the 80s Mets, God knows what they got into. The whole story with Mantle is hilarious, and it just opens your eye, what goes on in, probably not anymore, maybe sometimes in certain clubhouses, but what went down in clubhouses back then is wild to say the least.
I have to bring it up something, you guys. The best part of this whole thing is that comes out and the Yankees, won all these championship stuff. And then your team that you guys follow happened to fire a future Hall of Famer just because they had a couple of beers in the clubhouse. That should make you guys very angry.
What are you referring to there?
Terry Francona getting fired for having a few beers and some chicken during games.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really the whole saga with that was so overblown by the media that they had no choice but to. The whole chicken and beer thing became a running joke for so long that I think ownership was enough of this. This is hurting our brand. The only thing Red Sox front office and the ownership cares about is the Red Sox brand. This happy, family friendly. Zach knows what I'm talking about. This, if you take one look at Tom Werner, that guy is such a geek that he needs his brand, his Red Sox brand, to be happy go lucky at all times. So this whole chicken and beer thing was a no go for him once that story came out. All right, my favorite story from the last week. Probably not my favorite, but I thought it was hilarious. I can't really think of any others right now off the top of my head because I didn't prep properly for this. But the Philly Fanatic just shooting a hot dog right into this woman's face was maybe one of the funnier stories that I've ever heard come from a baseball game. So the Philly Fanatic, he always shoots hot dogs from his hot dog cannon, usually without incidents. occurring. And this time he shot it and it hit a lady in the front row or something, right in the face. And I guess the hot dogs are wrapped with duct tape. The hot dogs are wrapped with duct tape so they don't come apart. That hurts. Anything that has duct tape covering it, that hurts. So essentially, this woman got hit in the face with a hot dog with a giant wad of duct tape. Her face was all messed up, and she decided actually not to sue, which I thought was very graceful on her part, not to sue. That was pretty cool. That was a shout out to, I think her name was Kathy, for not suing. I'm very happy about that. The whole thing was just wicked funny. What did you guys think about that story?
Yeah, only in Philadelphia. And the fact that only in Philadelphia they wouldn't sue the Fanatic. Like if that happened anywhere else, like they would sue. But she's probably such a Phillies fan. She's like, I can't have their payroll go down because they have to pay for lawyers to fight my suit. Like I go to the game. I know what I'm getting myself into. The Fanatic's firing hot dogs, which I don't know why they're wrapped in duct tape. That's the most surprising thing.
It's Philadelphia.
The fact that people eat them afterwards is even more disgusting to me, but that's Philly. Like, it's just scum of the earth.
Yeah. It's Philadelphia in one story.
It's not that much court costs because they could just go to the court underneath the stadium that they have.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this story just made me laugh. It was just so Philadelphia that I couldn't leave it off of our topic list today. So, Graz, did you have a favorite story from the last week?
Yes, I was going to go with a funny story, but I changed it up halfway through. Today, as we were recording Monday, Edwin Jackson will be pitching for his record-tying 13th team. I've always been a big supporter of any journeyman players in baseball, any sport really. And, guys living the dream, 13 team in 15 years, still baseball, throwing pitches, and he'll be pitching for the Athletics today.
Do you know who he's tied with? Most teams? Do you know?
I know the name. No, I could get that in 30 seconds.
Octavio Dotel.
Oh,
or however you say his first name. I think that he is one of those players that I used to see in every time I played like video games back in the day. It was just Octavio Dotel throwing absolute heat. It was just, that's one of those names that you just know based off like childhood experiences, like video games and like baseball cards and all that stuff. Octavio Dotel, I don't think I ever actually remember seeing him, play in a major league game because I was like too young during his prime, but video games and all that shit is just, that name is forever in my mind. So I actually didn't know Dotel played for that many teams. I always thought he was mainly on the, what was like his prime years that Dotel was on. I want to say it was the Royals, but I could be completely wrong.
I think of him on the Astros. I don't know why.
Astros too. Astros and the Royals, I think. If I'm wrong about that, I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed, but.
Okay, you got Astros for 4 years.
Okay.
Here. And then he got traded to Oakland, and then he played for my Yankees, and then he was a Royal in 2007. That's probably why you remember him as a Royal.
Because it's just towards the end of his run, sort of.
Exactly. And then Chicago and Pittsburgh and LA. See, this is the life. I'm all in on Edwin Jackson.
Yeah, I'm a big Edwin Jackson. The guy has a no-hitter under his belt, too, which is hilarious because he was never really that great. He had a couple good stretches, but he has staying power, apparently, in the major league, so all the power. That's pretty awesome for him.
Yeah, I mean, that game is almost over. He pitched really well. 6 innings, 6 hits, 7 strikeouts, 1 run. 80 pitches.
What is it? Like, how can you be so bad and then so good? Like, there's never an in-between with him. There's been times where he's let up like 10 runs and then he just will go out the next start and just shut a team out. It makes no sense to me.
Great outing today. So Edwin Jackson's back.
Yeah, he is officially back. Don't call it a comeback. Edwin Jackson is back. We don't do the don't call it a comeback thing that much, but like that is a perfect time to use it for Edwin Jackson right there. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into our interview with Gary Sheffield Jr. Okay. All right. We want to thank Gary Sheffield Jr. for coming on. We really appreciate it. Awesome interview with him. Let's jump into more topics here, starting with a trade. We had our first real notable trade of the season. Big name, Kelvin Herrera, going from the Royals to the Nationals. We all expected Herrera to be moved this season. I didn't think it would be this soon. Usually we see all these dominoes kind of fall And mid to end July, obviously around the deadline is where we see most of the action, but the Nationals did not waste any time to bolster their bullpen. Calvin Herrera to the Nationals. We're going to do a little bit of grade that trade here. So I'll start. This is an automatic A for me because the Nationals, Brandon Kinsler is on the disabled list, who is usually their eighth inning guy. Obviously, they have Sean Doolittle closing for them right now. I think Ryan Madsen was the eighth inning guy too. But now they have Herrera for that role, and they can shut the door quick on teams now with Herrera and Doolittle and throw in Madsen before them. So that bullpen is pretty scary as long as the starters can hold their own. What did you think about this trade?
I'm giving an A- to the Nats. I agree with everything you said. Herrera has been one of the most underrated relievers in baseball the past couple of years. I think just because he's in the AL and he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour, he doesn't get the love a lot of other guys get. I thought it was a terrible get back for the Royals. They didn't even get a top 10 prospect in the Nats system. They got the 10th and 11th ranked prospects. I mean, he was one of the premier bullpen arms at the deadline. Was going to be at the deadline. I don't think the Royals got his full value there.
Yeah, I'm very confused about this deal for the Royals. I have to believe the Royals thought they couldn't get anything better, which is mind-blowing to me. How do you make this deal without waiting until mid-July or something for, I don't know, like another team that needs bullpen help? Maybe the Red Sox, maybe the Astros. Trying to think of other teams that need bullpen help right now. The Nationals are obviously one of those teams, but you would think that the Royals would wait it out and see what would be offered to them over the course of the next month or so, because jumping on this deal is very questionable for me. Like you said, the 10th and 11th ranked prospects, and then just some no-name pitcher who God knows what if he'll ever amount to anything. So I know the Royals are sellers this trade deadline, but they seem to jump the gun here. For the Royals, I think this is like a D. I don't know how they're improving for the long run here. Maybe they know something that we don't, but this was a strange move, I believe, for the Royals.
Yeah, I agree with you. My only thought is like maybe they wanted to give him to the team he wanted to go to and a contender just because he's been a loyal servant there. But at the end of the day, he'd be going to a contender anyways because they're the only ones trading for relievers at the deadline. So yeah, it didn't make much sense from the Royals' perspective in terms of what they got from the Nats.
The Nationals are in third place right now too, so they needed to make this move. That's another reason why it's an A for me, because you're trying to make this push. The Braves are clearly competitive. The Phillies are competitive. The Nationals finally have some real competition within that division. There's no guarantee they even make the playoffs at this point, so they needed that extra push, especially with Kinsler on the DL. They always seem to do this. They're the same type of team every year where they always need bullpen help at the deadline. So it's like we're living the same year over and over with the Nationals. It seems like they're going on the same path. Except this time they actually have some competition, like I said, within their division. So I do think this is going to help them overtake the Phillies and the Braves. I think that this might be the move that gets them over this hump. They do need Harper to figure it out. I mean, Harper's been terrible. He's hitting I don't know what he did this week, but he's not getting much better. I think he's down to a 200 batting average now. So for them to make any push, I don't care what your bullpen looks like. You got to have your star playing like a star. You got anything else on this?
No, I think it's the first domino to fall, though, for sure.
Definitely, I'm excited. What other trades? Since we're on the trade topic right now, do you have any other trades in mind, like rumors that you've heard that you think could come to fruition?
No, I think the Machado one's just the biggest one. That's the only one I think he could honestly change a playoff race going to a certain team. So I'm keeping my eye on him.
I forget where we all predicted. Like, for example, if I think one of my predictions was the Cardinals. Like, that's a team. If he goes to the Cardinals, they're a whole different. They could actually make a push for a playoff spot. If he goes to the Phillies, that's another team that he's been rumored to go to. So if he goes to the Phillies, he can the Phillies can jump right back ahead of the Nationals. So it's interesting. We're gonna see a lot of dominoes fall. Like you said, I'm very excited about that. We got 1 month till the trade deadline. This next month or so is going to be busy. We're going to have a lot of trade talk on this podcast for sure. Or at least I hope so, because that's the most exciting thing in baseball is seeing all the player movement. Another thing we're going to see within the next month is the home run derby. The Mariners are trying to get Ichiro into the home run derby, which I think is actually pretty cool. He was never known, obviously, as a power hitter throughout his entire career. But there's this mythical thing about Ichiro batting practices. Apparently, the guy rakes in batting practice. This is a story I have heard for years, and I just want to see it. I don't know if we'll see what he's really done throughout his career in batting practice because the guy's 44 years old now. But it's still like you have to assume Ichiro's career is pretty fucking close to over, even though he's not officially retired. I just want to see him have this one last send off, because he'll get a standing ovation wherever he goes. So I would like him to enter the home run derby. I don't care about what he does in the derby. I just think he's such a legend. He deserves this type of send off.
Yeah. The home run derby to me, like, I don't want to see Ichiro on the home run derby, but he does deserve some type of send off. I just don't know what it would be in. Like, if there was a skills challenge, which the MLB doesn't do, that'd be great because he was built his career off being an athlete, being fast, great fielder, big arm. So he definitely deserves something. I think it's weird how he just is sort of surrounding the Mariners. Like, they hit a walk off the other day, and he's running out of the dugout and congratulating someone at home plate. He's just sort of there. I'm sure he adds value, but he's just kind of hanging around the Mariners at this point.
Did you see him with the fake mustache in the dugout?
Yeah.
That almost made the favorite story list because I'm a huge Ichiro guy. I think he's he's a sneaky, funny guy. You never hear him talk, but you could just tell he has a huge personality. And of course, he's one of the best players of all time. So when you see just 44-year-old Ichiro in the dugout with a fake mustache and sunglasses on, trying to avoid any real, public, like, media frenzy or anything like that, because anywhere he goes, the Japanese media follows. So I thought that was hilarious. So big Ichiro guy. I want to see him in the Derby. What do you think, Ross? Do you want to see Ichiro in the Derby, or are you out on this idea?
Oh, I'm in on including anyone on the Derby that doesn't deserve to be there. I was in on getting Mad Bum in there when he was raking a couple years back too.
Fair. So let's go. The Mariners, speaking of the Mariners, they're falling behind in the AL West right now. They're 4.5 games back of the Astros. Do you guys still think, no matter what, that they are a shoo-in for the playoffs, for a wild card game, I should say? Because let's go over the standings real quick. We got the Yankees and the Red Sox. Obviously, they're far ahead in the AL East. They're tied for first place. Speaking of the AL East, Graz, I might as well Venmo you $1 like today, because the Rays are 37-40 and the Orioles are 23-53. 23-53. So that is a margin of 13.5 games. That's tough.
The Rays are a tough team, man. They just grind out wins. I don't know how.
They have the best ERA ever since they introduced the opener strategy. Just want to throw that out there. So that's a very interesting thing. I know Tampa's not going to go anywhere like playoffs or anything like that, but if they continue this, I mean, they might have revolutionized the way that teams approach pitching. I don't know how much longer it's going to last, but it's definitely interesting. And then the AL Central, the Indians are getting red hot. We all saw this coming because this is exactly what happened last season. Indians are leading. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 43-33 right now. The Tigers, don't know how they're doing it, but they're in second, 8 games back. Then it's the Twins, White Sox, Royals. They all suck. AL West, like I said, it's the Astros and the Mariners. The Angels are 5.5 games behind the Mariners. So do you guys think there's any hope for a second half surge from the Angels to overtake the Mariners and play in the wild card game?
No, I think the Mariners are the better team. They're the more consistent team. I think they've struggled lately, as you mentioned, 3-7 in their last 10 because they've played the Yankees and the Red Sox over this stretch. It's been a tough East Coast trip for them, and they play in Baltimore tonight. So hopefully they can rack up some wins there. But anytime one of these West Coast teams comes to the East Coast, they always struggle. And the other way around, too, with the Red Sox and Yankees. So I'll put a lot of stock into that. I'll just see how the Mariners play against the teams in their division moving forward.
And then there's the NL East, which we already covered. The Braves lead it, which I still think is surprising. I know they started out the year red hot, but the fact that they're still staying in first place, very interesting to me. The Phillies are second. The Nationals are third. We already covered that. And then there's the Mets, who just, it's just the Mets, man. They're fourth place, and they might be trading Syndergaard or DeGrom at the deadline. We don't really know how that's going to go yet. There hasn't been, there's obviously the speculation, but we haven't heard much from the front office on that one. But if one of them leaves, if you're a Mets fan, I think you just got to kill yourself. And then there's the Central, the Brewers. The Brew Crew is leading the Central, followed by the Cubs, and then, like I said, the Cardinals. They're hanging in there, 4.5 games back. If they make a big trade at the deadline, I'm dead serious when I say do not count them out if they get like a Machado or someone like that.
I think the biggest race is the National League wild card to me. Like,
yes,
there's 7
it always is too.
Yeah, there's 7 teams that could be in there, and I wouldn't be totally surprised. And that doesn't even include Pittsburgh, who started the season so hot, and they've been absolutely terrible lately.
Yeah.
But I think everyone the Rockies up could make the wild card game, and I wouldn't be totally surprised. So that will be a race because there's going to be a good team left out, to be honest, in the National League. Someone's not going to make it who you probably would have predicted to make it before the season.
How about the Reds being 8-2 in their last 10 games? How they've
won 7 straight. My Reds have won 7 straight.
They've won 7 straight.
That's crazy to me. It's just baseball's the weirdest sport ever.
They just swept the Cubs this past weekend.
I was saying this to someone last night because I was at a bar and I look up and I see there's a Cubs Reds game on, and the first thing that crossed my mind is just, doesn't it always seem like the Cubs are facing the Reds? Like every time you tune into a Cubs game, they're facing the Reds. That's the first thought. It's either the Reds or the Pirates. And I know obviously you play your division rivals more than any other team, but I think every time I've tuned into a Cubs game this year, it's been either the Reds or the Pirates. So that was the observation I made last night.
That's crazy because I think of whenever I see the Cubs, I think they're playing the Brewers. Like I just always think they're playing the Brewers. It's crazy how we have that weird stuff with certain teams.
And it's not just the Cubs either. There's like every time I tune into a Dodgers game, I think they're facing the Diamondbacks. It's just, I know, again, it's the same division, so they're going to play each other more. It's just, I think everybody has that where it's like you tune in and you're automatically, it's like, didn't they just play them the past 20 games? MLB schedules are so weird like that though.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there's the NL West where the Diamondbacks are still holding strong. They're leading the Dodgers by 2.5 games. Don't expect that to last too long. I think the Dodgers eventually are going to run away with it. We talked about that last week. Giants, Rockies, Padres. That Rockies bullpen is struggling. They spent all their money this offseason on a bullpen, and they just don't have one. It's dreadful.
Yeah, I was going to mention it coming up on one of these podcasts that the Rockies have maybe the worst bullpen ever constructed. Not talent-wise, but ERA-wise. Like, they throw guys out there that they cannot get people out. It's so infuriating because they have the offense to do so much, but they just can't get the pitching to supplant it.
It's crazy though, because again, they spent so much money on like Jake McGee. They spent a ton of money on him. They spent a ton of money on Wade Davis. These are names. These are bullpen names, guys who usually you can count on to get out of tough situations, and they haven't been able to do that this year. Adam Ottavino, he was the best reliever in baseball at the start off the year. He's still really good. Obviously, the talent's there. It's just none of them can really keep it together when it matters most. Wade Davis, especially, that's a guy who's really been disappointing for them this season. So the Cubs apparently dodged a bullet there, not having Wade Davis anymore, which is just crazy. That's crazy that we're saying this in June, like that Wade Davis, like that. Good job avoiding Wade Davis, that the guy who was the most prized reliever on the market. And then you just got the Padres. They're just the Padres. The Padres are in the Manny Machado sweepstakes, though. That's kind of crazy to me. Like if Machado goes to the Padres, what does that accomplish?
When you have weather like that, people don't think straight. They just don't know what they're doing. They pull off some trades that are very confusing. The Padres, they might be the most confused organization in baseball in terms of where they're going and where they're at right now.
Is there a logical explanation though as to why the Padres would go after Machado for a rental? Like, is there any real logical explanation? Because I haven't heard one.
I think they just want to make a run. Like, that's it. They've been so irrelevant for so many years. They see a glimmer of hope. Like, I think 2 weeks ago, they were 5 or 6 games under 500. So they were close to getting there, but they just had another bad 2 weeks. So I don't know.
So the wild card team out of the NL as of today is the Cubs at 42-33, if I'm reading this correctly. So the Cubs are, I think they're Padres could still get the wild card. I guess if they got like a Machado, they're still kind of in it. So I think they're like 7 games back of the Cubs. I don't know. The wild card is going to be a crazy race. We'll leave it there. Let's move on to our duds and our When You're Hot, Your Hots this week. Who do you have as your dud of the week?
So my dud of the week, I hate to say it, he's a Yankee, and it's Greg Bird. I have Yankee fans that are clamoring for this too. They think that he was too highly rated coming out because he had a great first like 60 games, and now he's obviously coming back from injury, but he's been absolutely terrible since he's been back. Bad this week, under 100 batting average, no pop, just doing nothing for the Yankees. And for the Yankees not to have a power first baseman, they went from like Giambi to Shera, all these guys, and now they have Greg Bird who can't hit the broadside of a barn. It's sort of got to be a little bit concerning just because they put a lot of stock in this kid. They didn't change or make a big trade because they had Greg Bird. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know how you feel, Graz, but
yeah, I want to hear Graz's opinion on this. Anytime we talk about a Yankee or anything like that, you got to get the Graz take. So Graz, what do you think?
Here's my take. I'm usually a big Greg Bird guy. I've always been a big Greg Bird guy. I like what he does. I like left-handed power in Yankee Stadium more than anything in the world. But I am a little stressed out about it because the Yankees have been on this run where every prospect they've brought up has been fantastic. And they're due for someone to not be fantastic. Like Torres is good and Andujar is good.
Right.
And I know Sanchez is now hurt and struggling too, but he was good last year. And Judge is, MVP candidate. But
right.
They are due to have a bad prospect happen, but I always thought it would happen in the pitching, like in the pitching kind of area. But I'm not surprised he's not hitting well. The shift is killing him.
Yeah, it's killing a lot of guys right now. That's actually another subject we haven't really touched on that much, is that the shift has been a big storyline this season. It's kind of ruining it's not ruining baseball. That's a stretch, but this has been a season of guys either striking out, grounding into the shift, or hitting home runs. That's pretty much what this season has consisted of. Guys like Joey Gallo are the epitome of what we have seen throughout this entire season. The Joey Gallo shift has been crazy. Some of the shifts that they're using, they're putting guys. Arenado was in left field, and he was the only guy on the left side of the field. Everyone else was on the right side of the field. And if you can't, I know, it's a lot harder than we're making it out to be, but just slap it across the fucking, how hard can it be? Bunt or just slap it across the field. I can't wrap my head around. We're obviously not as educated as Major League Baseball players on the subject, but it is crazy to me that that's happening in Major League Baseball right now. Yeah. Yep. So my dud this week is we're doing dud still. My dud this week is Matt Boyd. You've had him as your dud, Zach, and now he is my dud. Yeah. Matt Boyd. He started 2 games in the last 7 days, obviously, and he has 7 innings pitched between those 2 starts. That's usually supposed to be 1 start. Just throwing that out there. A little baseball fact. You're usually supposed to pitch 7 innings in 1 start. That's 2 combined starts, 7 innings. And he allowed 11 earned runs in those 7 innings. So that is not ideal. Well, that's why he's my dud. It's very straightforward. You're not supposed to let up 11 runs in 7 innings pitched. That's just not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and he had a good start to the season too, which was crazy because I was like, this guy's a dud. I remember him from last year. I'm like, this guy stinks, and he's off to a good start. Obviously, everyone comes back to level, so Matt Boyd, that totally makes sense.
Matt Boyd is a dud name. Matt Boyd is not going to succeed at anything. That's just you're supposed to have a cool name or something. Matt Boyd is not a cool name. That's just a dud name. All you have to do is hear the name. It's just dud. When you're hot, you're hot. Mine is Jose Bautista. Jose Bautista, 6 for 13 in his last 7 games with 2 homers. Was crazy to me. And at first glance, it's oh, well, he hasn't had as many at bats as a lot of other guys. Well, that's because he has 10 walks and 2 strikeouts. I don't know where this plate discipline came from with Jose Bautista, because usually he has none. But in the last 7 games, he's had it. So Jose Bautista is my when you're hot, you're hot. He is the definition of a when you're hot, you're hot this past week, because he's just not a guy you would expect to be good all of a sudden again.
How crazy is the Mets like can't get their good players to hit, but they pick up Jose Bautista and he's just like on fire. That like sums up the Mets organization to a T. They take these scrap heap guys and they perform, and then they pay Jay Bruce like $20 million and he can't do anything. So my guy is another veteran, sort of like Joey Bats, Nelson Cruz. It was a pleasure watching him hit versus the Red Sox this weekend.
Yeah.
He is like, I know I don't know his numbers off the top of my head, but just in my mind, I think he's a Hall of Famer. The way he hits the ball, he is like not just a power guy. He can go the opposite way. He can drive the ball anywhere in the ballpark. And whenever he hits a home run, the Mariners announcers yell "boomstick, baby." That's got to be one of the best home run calls in the MLB. So Nelson Cruz had a great week, and it's actually great to see these players up close and personal playing against your team, and you really appreciate how good of a player Nelson Cruz has been.
Absolutely. I had the exact same thoughts watching him face the Red Sox. He is such an intimidating presence when he's in the batter's box. It's the combination of just his size and his stance. He's just so menacing when he's at the plate, and watching him hit Stephen Wright's knuckleballs into friggin' outer space was a pleasure to watch. And I don't usually say that I'm still a Red Sox fan, obviously, but it was something else. And that was a wild game too. It was just that 14-10 game against the Mariners. And we saw so much offense, and obviously Nelson Cruz, I think he had 7 RBIs in that game. So that was a huge part of it. So Nelson Cruz was almost one of my choices as well. All right. So Graz, do you have any mailbag questions?
Yeah, I got a bunch.
Okay. Oh,
you can do as many or as little as you want.
Just give them as many as you think are appropriate for this episode.
Okay,
maybe we can save some.
There's not one where usually you guys have to work together, but this one's for me, myself, and I. How many of the Rockies' Game 1 of the World Series lineup from 2007 do you think you can name right now?
Oh, fuck.
The starting lineup for the Rockies in 2007?
Yes.
Todd Helton.
Good. You got one.
That's like the automatic. That's like the
that's easy.
That's the middle of the bingo card right there.
Yeah.
Ryan Spielborgs.
Yes.
The fact that that's the name that you came up with. Hold on.
Brad Hopp. Brad Hopp
is Larry Walker.
You guys got a third.
Larry Walker. Larry Walker.
Nope.
Fuck.
Preston Wilson.
No, not Preston Wilson.
Where was Larry Walker in 2007? Was he retired by then?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was like 2005 he retired, right? I'll check that while you guys are going.
This was too early for Carlos Gonzalez, right?
It was too early for Carlos Gonzalez. Good day.
Wow. Okay, this is actually blowing my mind. And if you name guys, I know for a fact I'm gonna be like, God damn it.
We're gonna start going through. Yeah, you missed a couple big ones. You missed the best player on their team.
Todd Helton wasn't their best player.
Not that year. That year, Tulowitzki was on there. Tulowitzki was there.
How did I not think of Tulo? I guess because he's still in the league. I can't think of guys who are still.
I got Ryan Spielborgs, but not Tulowitzki.
Yeah. Here's a name you guys you missed on Kazuo Matsui.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that though.
Favorite. And then hitting third and who had a bazillion home runs in the playoffs, Matt Holliday.
That is a shoe-in too. That's one that I absolutely.
You got to know that one.
Yep.
Other than that, you missed Willie Tavares, Garrett Atkins.
Garrett Atkins was sneaky good.
Yuvort Torabella.
Yeah. You should do this more, Graz. Just do like weird World Series teams and see if we can name their lineup.
Okay. And starting pitcher was Jeff Francis.
That one, the only reason I know that one is because of the Dustin Pedroia quote when he went deep off of Jeff Francis in the World Series. I don't know if you know this story, Graz. When he wasn't let into the ballpark by ballpark security, they asked him who he was. And Dustin Pedroia was like, "I'm the guy who went deep off Jeff Francis last night." There's something I'm paraphrasing there, but it was a badass quote, and that's how I remember the legend of Jeff Francis.
Well, you didn't know him for this exercise, so it's fun.
Well, he wasn't.
They also have Jason Jennings, the pitcher, or something Jennings.
I could check. I just have the World Series line.
Yeah, never mind. Now my brain's just like in Rockies 07 mode.
Has there ever been more of a mismatch?
Was on the team at that time.
Has there ever been more of a World Series mismatch than the 2007 Red Sox versus the 07 Rockies?
No.
Yes, the Big Red Machine against the Yankees. The run differential was like a bazillion to 2.
Well, I think that's what it was in the Rockies series too.
Yeah.
I think the Phillies versus the Rays, like maybe 10 years ago, like David Price, but the Rays were terrible and the Phillies were a wagon that year with like Howard and Utley in his prime.
That's very true.
That was an awesome ALCS against the Red Sox, though.
Yeah, it was.
That was fun.
Yep.
Okay, next question. That was a fun one. Okay, this is an opinion question. Do you guys miss Prince Fielder as much as I do?
Yeah, doesn't he have a cooking show now, or did that already get canceled?
I heard about this cooking show today.
I think it's a Netflix show. When I first heard the news about that, I was like, I'm watching this, and then I just never did and completely forgot about it. Yeah, I kind of miss Prince Fielder. He was always cool to watch. He's just like this big. I love watching just fat players play baseball. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Like I miss him. Yeah,
I don't miss him one like ounce just because I think he was fat and out of shape and he stole contracts from teams. I have no respect for that kind of player.
I got a lot of respect for that kind of. I'd do the same thing if I was fat. A lot of guys. I think a lot of guys. Obviously he was good. Well, he wasn't good in his last couple of years, but he was also hurt. So
because he's fat.
I think, yeah. And I think a lot of, watching Prince Fielder run the bases, though, he hustled. And that was always funny to watch. All right.
Okay. Another trivia question for you guys. I'm doing, this is kind of trivia.
No, yeah. We need more trivia on this show. I love trivia.
Yeah. Part-time trivia host. I'm here to help you guys. Okay.
Here we go. My God, Ross.
Trivia question.
I need to see that.
Which current manager grounded out in Mariano Rivera's 500th save to end the game, to get his 500th save?
Craig Counsell.
Oh, that's a great guess, but no, it's not him.
It wasn't him?
Kevin Cash?
Alex Cora?
Not Kevin Cash. It is Alex Cora.
Okay. All right.
Okay. That was easy.
Not bad.
Okay, I have two actual questions for you. What is your reaction to Hansel Robles giving up a home run immediately when he got to the Angels?
And he pointed.
Not being surprised. Yeah, pointing it and then just not being surprised. I don't know. He sucks. Remember when he walked in it was a walk-off walk. He walked the bases loaded, I think, and then he just walked another guy to lose.
You know what? I actually have a strong take on this. Fuck the Angels for picking him up and then putting him right in a pressure extra inning situation. Like the guy's not made out for that. He points whenever when he hits a home run off him, just pulls the Hansel Robles.
The Angels do not know what they're doing with their pitching staff ever. Their pitching is always a dumpster fire, and I know a lot of it has to do with the fact that Garrett Richards was supposed to be an ace, and now he's just hurt all the time. Other than that guy, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and every year it's the same old story with them. They have no pitching ever.
I am officially starting on this podcast #Free Mike Trout. It is now on wax. #Free Mike Trout. He needs to be freed. This is a ridiculous.
It was you guys who I said last week that I would not be shocked if the Angels just re-signed Mike Trout because Mike Trout's just that kind of guy, right? Like if that happened, would you be shocked? Because I would not be. All right, next question.
All right, next question. Are you guys, as AL East fans, as I'm an AL East fan, sick and effing tired of the Trop stealing home runs away from your team?
Yeah. What was the whole thing with the speaker? I missed that. Clint Frazier hit it, right?
Clint Frazier hits a bomb, and it hits off a speaker, and then it's caught by Echeverria. And the ground rule is that if it's one of the catwalks that are still in play, so one is a ground rule double, one is a home run, and then one is it's still an effing play. Like, that's a backyard do-over, right? If it hits something, it's just let's just do this over again.
The Trop is an abomination. Let's put it that way. The Trop needs to go. It needs to get demolished. I don't care where they move. The Trop is dreadful. I can't look at that thing anymore. I'm almost at the point where if the Red Sox are visiting the Rays, I almost won't watch because the aesthetics of Tropicana Field are just not pleasing to the eye. I want no part of the Trop anymore. I'm almost banning the Trop. I'm very close to just banning the Trop. I don't want to look at it anymore.
You know what? I think if we didn't like teams in the AL East, I would actually like the Trop because there's something to be said about just a weird field where just weird shit happens. Like if my team played there 6 times a year, I'd be totally fine with it. But the fact that both of our teams play a shitload there is just infuriating. And it's a disgrace to the city of Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg. It's terrible.
It's bad. This is so bad.
It's surprising. Have you ever thought about how many weird stadiums there are in the AL East where weird shit happens. Like Fenway is weird. Weird shit happens at Fenway. Weird shit happens at the Trop. And I guess Yankee Stadium, everything's a home run, so that's weird too.
And then you just got beautiful Camden Yards.
It's just spectacular. Like, why is that in Baltimore? Like, come on.
I know, of all places, it's in Baltimore. It's so
It's in a
strange.
rough area too. Yeah, you don't want to walk 2 blocks of that park.
But it's gorgeous. It is the most gorgeous park in baseball, and it's just stuck with the Orioles. That's unfortunate.
Down there too.
I'm glad we can bond over. I'm glad, like, obviously there's the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. I'm glad the Red Sox and Yankee fans can at least bond over how shitty the Rays Stadium is and how shitty the Orioles are. That's great.
The thing is with that Rays Stadium, anytime there's like a must-win, play-to-win game there, the Rays will win, no matter who they're playing. If they're playing the 27 Yankees, Evan Longoria is hitting a home run and winning that game.
Here's how I classify the AL East as a fan of the Red Sox. And Graz, I think you might agree with this. The Red Sox and the Yankees are obviously they're the rivals. They're the big dogs of the AL East. You know, like they're both legendary franchises. Obviously, the class of the AL East, not only the AL East, but also baseball. I think Red Sox and Yankees can bond over that. And then you just look at the Rays and the Orioles, like poor, like these teams just suck. It's just like every year, it's like, ugh, disgusting. Then you got the Blue Jays, who it's like, oh, they're cute. Like they're the cute little like rival little brother. And you're just like, oh, their fans are really cool when it comes like high pressure situations. They all got like their towels. They're all yelling. It's like, oh, that's really cute. You Blue Jays fans are really cute doing that. So, but that's how I look at the AL East. It's just the Blue Jays are irrelevant. When they do well, it's like, nice, good for them. But they're never going to be better than the Red Sox and the Yankees. That's my little AL East.
I hate the Blue Jays. I hate the Blue Jays. I really hate the Blue Jays. I've always hated the Blue Jays.
I can't hate the Blue Jays.
My entire childhood was Yankees have an important late summer game that they need to win. Oh, the pointless Blue Jays are in town, and Roy Halladay threw a perfect game or something fucking close to it, and I'd be furious at my TV on a September afternoon, like, why is this guy still here? And then he went to Philly and tried to beat the Yankees again.
Yeah. Okay, next up.
That's it.
That's it for the mailbag this week. Yeah. Okay, do we have one last thing from Graz?
I do have one last thing.
Okay.
My one last thing is very important to this podcast. By the end of tonight, there will be a wonderful bracket that we've come up with together as a unit for our favorite video game baseball character of all time. I have 16 names that I'm going to put on a bracket. You guys will see that later. Please tune in. If you see it, make sure to tweet at me the ones I got incorrect and did not put on there, because that is my favorite part of this, is getting hate.
All right,
you're perfect. Glutton for punishment, Graz.
Love it.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again to Gary Sheffield Jr. for joining the show. Hope to have him on again sometime soon. Follow us, as always, at Tater Talk Pod on Twitter and on Instagram, and then like us on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. If it's good, if it's funny, whatever, we'll read it on the show, and we'll leave it there. So we will see you guys later.
Peace.